r/Askmen. My wife hid a rubber chicken under my pillow. I found it at 4 a.m. when it squawked at me. What practical jokes have your so played on you? My kids have a board game with a chicken that squawks when you squish it. I put it on the floor next to her bed so when she got up in the morning she would step on it. It was glorious. The next night I stayed up late playing some video games with a friend. I figured she had hidden the chicken somewhere, but I wasn't too concerned about it. Q 4 a.m. when I roll over and am greeting with a squawk. I laughed so hard that I wasn't able to fall back asleep. I still chuckle just thinking about it. What practical jokes have your significant others played on you? Edit, fixed spelling. I activated a Furby and put it right underneath her side of the bed. The screaming at 4 a.m. as it said, "Hello, lovely," was worth it. So, when's your funeral? Yesterday. 2 stories out of the many. I came home from work one day and called a greeting to my wife, Lindsay. There was no answer, which was unusual since I knew she was home. I wandered idly around the house calling her name, and eventually went into the spare bedroom which we mostly used for storage. All of the sudden, she yelled and made a big banging sound as she jumped out of a large pet crate we had in there behind some boxes. Scared the crap out of me. She laughed herself silly at my reaction. We lived for a time in a cabin in the North Cascades. Beautiful area, but we had a problem with mice. We happened to be owned by 3 cats, and every once in a while they would corner a mouse. It was my job to catch it and release it out in the woods. One time, the cats were chasing a little guy who was particularly good at eluding all of us. I spent about 15 minutes chasing it, much to the amusement of our cats, and finally caught him. Breathless, I went out into the woods and released him. When I came back in, Lindsay was standing in the living room with a grave expression on her face, holding a plastic container with a book or something covering the top. "I caught another one," she said breathily. I sighed and reached out to take the container from her, but suddenly she whipped the book off the top and tossed the contents at me. I levitated about 2 feet off the ground and made a sound I can't really describe. I actually ran away a few feet before I realized she had thrown one of the cat's toy mice at me. Lindsay, of course, was laughing her ass off. I love that woman so much. I like pranking my so. I put our cat in the kitchen drawer and told him to open it because I saw a huge bug crawl in there. He opened it cautiously and proceeded to scream when Porkchop's tail flicked and grazed his arm. Porky was a happy chap throughout, he just likes being involved in anything. I occasionally changed the greeting on my girlfriend's voicemail. This was before texting. To start with, I just recorded a regular message starting with, "Hi. This is Jackie, I'm male and have a deep professional-sounding voice." One day she asked me if her voice had changed and told me about how weird it was that all of her friends kept saying on her voicemail how her voice got deeper and laughing. Another time I recorded in a soft whispery voice, "Shush. Jackie's asleep right now, but you can leave a message if you like." She eventually told me about how all her friends were talking softly on her voicemail and apologizing in case their calls woke her up. Another was in my biggest, deepest, most professional-sounding voice, "Hi. You've reached Jackie. Jackie is available for weddings, house parties, corporate events or whatever kind of party you're having. Leave your name and number and someone will get back to you." People mostly just laughed and then left their messages, but one friend who she met up with asked, "What do you do at parties?" Jackie answered, "Mingle, I guess." "Why? I mean, if I had you at my wedding, what would you do?" the friend inquired. Jackie gave the best answer she could but didn't know where this conversation was heading. The friend asked, "You're available for all kinds of parties, right?" I don't remember how the conversation went from there, but it went on for a couple more minutes until the friend gave up without mentioning the voicemail greeting. On her way home, Jackie suddenly realized maybe she should check her greeting. I used to do something similar, changed his autocorrect settings to change common words to silly things so when he texted quickly he might send "I'll be high later" when he meant to send "I'll be home later." It took a full year for him to realize lol. I threw a glass of cold water at my girlfriend while she was showering. She screamed loud enough for the whole town to hear LMAO. She says she's going to get me back, but it's been over a year since then and I'm not sure how worried I should be. You should be worried. She's playing the long game. What if him being worried is the long game? Just yesterday my wife pulled my pants down. Not in a good way or sexy way. I was literally washing the dishes. She just pulled them right down knowing my hands were soaked and I was unable to defend myself and casually walked away. I've never felt so vulnerable in my life. Needless to say I finished those damn dishes, naked as the day I was born. I love to do this to my so and then slap his ass as hard as I can. I have done this to every guy I've dated seriously lol but not as hard as I can, ow. My wife and I are not religious but we keep hiding the same "let's talk about Jesus" pamphlet in random spots around the house for each other on and off, for about 5 years now. Sometimes she'll find it in her pillows, other times I'll find it clipped to one my shirts in the closet. My husband and I have a similar prank with a little rubber spider. Looks so real and scares the crap out of me when I find it. Then it's my turn to hide it. Sometimes it's a few times in one day, sometimes it's months in between. You never know when or where that thing is going to show up. I have a fairly terrifying clown mask from college when I worked in a haunted house. I've used it to mess with my wife a time or two. She's really good-natured. And promised she will get me back one day. I was gone for a week or so with the military. She had moved the mask and propped it in my bathroom cupboard so it was eye level. I nearly shit myself when I was getting ready for work and see this mask just out of the blue. Next, tape it to the bottom of the toilet seat cover and close it. Believe it or not, I did that, and hung it on our shower head. She missed it both times. When she lifted the toilet lid, she was fixated on some grime on the lid and missed it. Then I put it on the shower and she was mad because of soap scum on the bath floor. I used to work really late, come home 3 to 4 a.m. regularly. My wife would be asleep and I'd be as quiet as possible going to bed. Well, a couple guys I work with all decided to shave our heads after work without informing our spouses. My wife woke up to a bald-headed man in her bed next to her, facing away so she couldn't see it was me. She was pissed. Did something a bit similar back in high school. Always had long hair and a big, bushy beard. One day, shaved both the head and the beard. Morning before class, found my GF, spun her around and gave her a big kiss before she could even react or process what happened. Almost 15 years later, and that's still the absolute funniest face I've ever seen anyone make. Looked like her brain straight up crashed and had to reboot. And that's when a swift kick down there ensured you could never tell this story to your kids on Christmas. Laughing face. Me and my wife like to hide and scare each other. I got a Gandalf costume for Halloween a few years ago. Hat, beard and robe. I still get great pleasure in putting it on and hiding around corners or in closets. I jump out shouting Bilbo Baggins. Sometimes I lie in bed in costume waiting for her to wake up and shout good morning. My wife doesn't scare easily but a strange wizard jumping out at her always gets a huge scream. If she ever accidentally killed me in self-defense it would be a shame that I wouldn't get to hear her explain it to a jury. Don't feel sorry for her however. Her favorite practical joke is to sneak up behind me whilst I'm messaging family or friends on my PC. She waits until I'm typing and then she presses Ctrl+V then return before I can react. She's that evil. So far, thankfully, there's been nothing too incriminating in my clipboard. Holy shit, the Gandalf one is hilarious. My former so asked for art supplies for Christmas. I went out and got plenty of watercolors, nice pencils and quality paper for her, then went to the dollar store, got a cheap pad, a mechanical pencil that looked broken already and some other knick-knacks including the worst smelling perfume I've ever had near my nose. I made sure to wrap the dollar store stuff perfectly and hid the quality art supplies. When she opened the gifts and without missing a beat, she smiled and thanked me for the thoughtful gifts, promised to draw me beautiful pictures with them. I laughed so hard and got the real gifts and she breathed a huge sigh of relief. I never deserved such a wonderful woman. Many years ago my wife, then newish girlfriend, gave me a present at Christmas. I opened it to find a printer box. I smiled, said thank you for the gift etc., though I was wondering why she got me a printer? I mean we were in college but I had a older, but working, printer. She laughed and told me to open it. It was a beautiful bong with Bob Marley imprinted on the side. She really did know me, what a great present. She just needed the right size box and randomly found that one. I still have the bong tucked away somewhere in storage 10 years later. Our wedding song is Bob Marley's Is This Love? She still makes fun of me for thinking she bought me a shitty Epson printer for Christmas. Husband, then boyfriend, pulled the ultimate prank. We'd already discussed getting married, so I kind of expected a proposal at some point. One day, we were randomly opening mail back when people still did that when he said that he had something for me and then suddenly got down on one knee. Then, to my surprise, he whipped out a CD of dorky music we both liked, no offense Hilary Duff. We laughed, danced to the music and went back to opening the mail. Then he casually asks what I thought he had for me. I laughed and said, "A ring, you dummy." Then he got down on one knee again, pulled out the ring and said, "Oh, you mean this one?" It was cute red heart. I think my wife's heart would explode if I did something like that, lol. So I just fart at her. Classic. Sometimes I do the opposite of the Dutch oven. I'll get in bed while she's finishing brushing her teeth and whatever and fart as much as I can under the sheets. When she opens the sheet to get in, bam, farts. She gets me back by shitting while I'm in the shower full steamed up. Shower farts are nasty, haha. About a year into dating my husband, I pulled the best prank I've ever come up with. He's a little gullible, so a great candidate for this kind of thing. I ordered around 10 $5 or less items from Amazon and had them shipped to him with no info about who sent them. I also talked to a couple friends about it who I knew wouldn't tell him, but because they were in on it, they wouldn't help him try to figure out who sent them. These things were coming from China, so they'd show up pretty randomly. The first was 2 solar-powered cars that only ran in the sun. Only info on them was that they were from China. His parents live in China, so he thought it was them. When they denied it, he was so confused. Over the course of a month he got at least half the packages, getting more and more confused. Finally a package arrived on his birthday and we were home alone together. He freaked out and it culminated in him shaking me, not hard, just in a silly, frustrated way, and pleading with me to tell me who was doing it. That's when I finally came clean. After that he was a good sport about the rest of the packages, and some of our friends started sending some too. I did something similar to this to a friend of mine who moved away. In Canada, you can request portraits of the Queen and they'll ship for free to any domestic location. So about a dozen of us got together and requested portraits to his house with obvious misspellings of his name, but obviously him. For almost 2 months he'd rage about a random new portrait of the Queen arriving until we came clean. Definitely worth it. She kept complaining how cold I was. Continuously, unending, intrusive were her complaints. Finally, I'd had enough. So I said I had to get up and use the restroom. I didn't use the restroom. I stood at the sink for about 2 minutes running my hands and wrists under the winter-cold water coming out of the tap. Dried off. Then went to bed and gave her a big hug. When my husband asks for water in the morning, I sometimes give him a straight glass of vodka or tequila. Eventually he stopped trusting me, so I had to get smart. I filled our entire Brita water pitcher in the fridge with a bottle of vodka. I'm currently plotting my next move as he literally does not trust any drink in our house. The other day I ninja kicked into the bathroom while he was pooping to the song "Let's Get Down to Business" from Mulan. I have poured a bottle of ketchup on him the moment he was done showering. I bought a full Genji costume and just randomly show up places as Genji. I am an annoying wife, but somehow he luckily thinks I'm funny. So my GF gets real nasty farts when she eats avocado. She had been holding in some avocado brews all morning. We were at Target walking down an empty aisle and she asked if I could grab something from the bottom shelf. I reached down to grab it and as I came up, my GF aimed her buns right over my head. I heard a loud noise and I felt a rush of steamy air hit my eyes. It was by far the smelliest thing I've ever had to smell. I give it a 0/10 in terms of enjoyment for me. My wife filled a cup of milk with soy sauce. She then coyly said, "I thought I wanted chocolate milk, but it's really not what I wanted, do you want it?" Fuck yay, I want chocolate milk. I don't remember exactly what happened next, but the utter shock of drinking salty soy sauce milk when expecting sweet, delightful chocolate milk, is its own hell. I know I spit it out, and am certain a mess was had, plenty of laughs were had after this, but by God that was awful. 10 out of 10 would recommend doing this prank to someone else. One time my friend and I had ridden home from school in like 40-degree heat Celsius and I got her a cup of cold refreshing water and some salt and vinegar chips as a snack and she sculled like 2 full deep mouthfuls of the drink before she realized it was straight vinegar. That was over 20 years ago and it's still my finest moment. I peeked at 16 confused face. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more Reddit stories like this.